All right, well, we're not doing anything right now. The super committee, a super failure as we've called it, ending all negotiations after failing to reach a deal to reduce America's debt. Now, the committee has 6 Democrats and 6 Republicans. They didn't actually publicly address the crisis. They didn't come to the cameras as they usually do. Instead, they released a statement which said in part, quote, "We are deeply disappointed. We have been unable to come to a bipartisan deficit reduction agreement." Well, not nearly as disappointed as we are going to be if we don't begin reducing our debt. As we told you earlier in the show, this is bad news for our economy. The lack of certainty, the uncertainty, and the gridlock will mean we don't get hiring now. It sent the market down 250 points today. That means smaller retirement nest eggs for everyone, and over time when the day comes. And the one thing we know is we don't know when that day will exactly be. That's the whole problem, but interest rates will go a whole lot higher. All right, well, what can we do about it right now? Joining us from the left and the right side, we've got Kevin Madden with Mitt Romney and Bill Burton, head of the super PAC for President Obama, and also, of course, was in the Obama White House. Great to have both of you with us.
Good to be with you. Thanks.
All right, your former boss, he came out, he said he's going to veto anybody who tries to roll back these automatic cuts, which is obviously a really important thing for the credit rating. But let me just ask you this one question. Why was he so quiet until now?
Well, I think that the president was working behind the scenes. His White House was working behind the scenes. And as Senator Kerry has said, they asked that the president not be too vocal in how he participated here because it would politicize the process in a way that would stop them from getting the deal. If anybody who knows the president knows that he likes to work hard, he likes to dig down deep into the details, and there's no shortage of ability there. But if making a deal meant staying away from the limelight, staying away from the public viewing of his participation, then he was obviously willing to do it. But, you know, the fact that Republicans wouldn't take yes for an answer on anything that the Democrats brought to the table is why we're in the place where we are right now.
Something to be said for the fact that Congress's approval ratings are so low that, you know, whatever their political party may be, you get in with the pigs have fun, and you just get muddy, i.e., you should just stay away from them?
Well, I don't think it's that as much as the president wanted to get a deal here. He wanted to reduce the deficit. Everything was on the table, but Republicans just refused to make a deal.
Kevin Madden, what about the Republicans? I didn't see any of the candidates, the Republican candidates, standing up and taking a stance on this either. I mean, they were probably like, hey, thank God we don't have to touch this.
Well, like you said, Washington right now does look like one big pigsty, and everybody is dirty in this mess. I think Republicans, in large part, recognize that the contours of this debate are playing out in 2012, regardless of what the super committee does. Deficit spending, tax cuts, the tax rates, all of those are an important part of the debate. So you see many of these candidates out there on the campaign trail talking to those big issues. And they're not encumbered by a lot of this partisanship here in Washington, and that's a good place politically. And I think the bigger part of this, I think, which is really hard for the president, is that he right now owns a lot of this because what's baked into the cake is the performance of the economy. And the overall economy right now is not performing well, and you're seeing a lot of uncertainty, and you're seeing a lack of confidence right now, particularly in the American public. And I think Washington as an entity is going to be judged very harshly, but the president's going to be judged particularly harsh.
How do you deal with the fact, Bill, and this isn't just the president, this is the Democrats, this is Congress, so not the guys that want to come in, but the guy who has the job and the Democrats and Republicans, deal with the fact that there just seems to be something so inherently dishonest about, we have automatic cuts after the election. The Bush tax cuts are going to go away after the election. It just doesn't taste good to a lot of people.
Well, I tell you what, put it off? Well, like I said before, the president was there. You talk about who's willing to make big cuts. And the president already made a huge cut to Medicare, $500 billion, something that Republicans demonized out on the campaign trail all throughout 2010. And this time around, Democrats were willing to make cuts all across the board, but they wanted to have a real conversation about it and find a way that they could do it in a way that made sense. And this, as we all can see, none of this looks good to anybody out there in America.
No, I think that's right, and I think people are looking to Washington for answers. They're looking for solutions. They're looking for some sort of trajectory in the right direction, and they're not getting it. I think the institutions are going to be judged very harshly, Congress, but the president's still the president. He has this bully pulpit, and I think this has been a bipartisan criticism. Even Michael Bloomberg today came out today and said the president has to step in here, should have stepped in and done a better job, taking greater steps to get something done, and he didn't.
I appreciate that, but Michael Bloomberg, he's a busy guy. I know he's got a lot of things going on up in New York City. But so maybe he doesn't know that Republicans asked that the president not participate in these talks because it would politicize it too much. But as a point was made, Mitt Romney wasn't exactly on leadership on this issue either, pushing Republicans to the table to make a deal.
Quickly before we go, speaking of Mitt Romney, Newt Gingrich is now number one. What do you think?
Well, I think we've seen a lot of volatility in these polls. I think a lot of folks have gone up, and then they've gone right down. The good thing about Governor Romney is he stayed consistent the whole time. And I think one of the things I've seen in these polls, too, is when you ask Republicans who they think is going to win, they think it's Governor Romney. And that's in large part because he's been the most vocal and has the best message on the economy, which is the #1 issue. So I think he has a lot of more growth here in this very critical phase of about the next 6 weeks as we get closer to Iowa and New Hampshire.
I think that's something you both agree on, that he'll probably be the nominee. Although, Bill, you've been preparing for him to be the nominee. I'm sure you'd prefer it to be someone else.
There's a difference between hoping and wishing, I guess. Right?
There's a very different for very different reasons. All right.
The process of elimination eventually comes to an end at some point.
All right. Hey, good to see both of you and in person.
Thanks, Sarah.